This video has been powered by IAC Electrical Pvt Ltd, which is a Kolkata-based manufacturer of hardware, fittings and accessories of phase conductors and distribution lines. Information about the company is down in the description. This is the first paid promotion on this channel. Hi everyone. Firstly, I want to apologize for the infrequency of videos on this channel over the past 3 weeks. If you follow me on social media, you know that I had been down with COVID for the last 16 days, and then some family members also contracted the virus. So the last 3 weeks have been quite stressful, but now we're back and we're going to try and bring out at least 2 or 3 videos a week over the course of the next 1 month, and we're going to do it as safely and as cautiously as we possibly can. Now I know that there's so much devastation, there's so much despair around us because of the COVID crisis, and at this time I understand that it is difficult to care about the election or the election results, but you must remember that the 4 states and the 1 union territory that went to polls this time around, they need a fully functioning government now more than ever to tackle the growing COVID-19 crisis, and it matters who forms the government in these states and how. In West Bengal, the Election Commission scheduled voting stretched over 8 phases for a period of 33 days. And we know that this long drawn election, which was the longest in the history of this country, has jeopardized the lives of thousands and thousands of people, and that we are anyway seeing with the rise in COVID cases in the state. This election in fact has drawn blood. We've seen violence during the election, and now reports are also coming in of post-poll violence in different parts of the state. At least 14 people have died in clashes between the TMC, the BJP, and even CPM workers. There is a huge misinformation campaign coming out of Bengal about communal or religious violence. Central ministers are in Bengal to take stock of the situation, and political blame game is already on. In this situation, it matters how this re-elected government brings the situation under control. Now let's discuss the overall results. As per the final results updated on the Election Commission of India website, TMC has won 213 seats out of 292 seats that went to polls. This is 2 seats more than the 211 that they won in 2016. They've also increased their vote share from 44.9% in 2016 to 47.9% in 2021. So this is the highest tally for any party in the state Vidhan Sabha. Now coming to the BJP has won 77 seats out of 292 seats, and they have increased their vote share from 2016, where they had 10.2%. They've increased that to 38.1%. But if you compare the 2019 Lok Sabha results, where BJP increased their vote share to 40%, in that comparison they have lost their vote share by about 2%. Now the remaining people who won, the Sanjukta Morcha, which was the alliance between the left parties, the Congress and the ISF, they have won just 1 seat in the state, and that is by the Indian Secular Front, ISF. They won a seat called Bhangar in South 24 Parganas, and the person who won that seat is Naushad Siddiqui, who is the brother of Abbas Siddiqui, the founder of the ISF. In 2016, the Congress and the Left Alliance, they had won 76 seats. So Congress had gotten 44 seats and the left parties had gotten 32 seats. So they had 76 seats in 2016. But now that has been reduced to just 1 seat, which is that of the ISF, not even of the Congress or the left. And now their entire vote percentage, the vote percentage of the alliance, has been reduced to about 10%. The only other seat in the state has been won by an independent candidate called Ruden S. Lepcha from Kalimpong. He contested on the JJM2 ticket, which is basically the JJM faction run by Binay Tamang. Now, Hill Politics, I've made at least 2 videos explaining the situation, the political situation in the hills, and I'll link that here so you can try and understand what actually went on in the hills. But that is what has happened. The JJM2, the Binay Tamang faction, they have won 1 seat in Kalimpong. Now, out of the 294 assembly seats, 292 seats went to polls this time. The 2 seats in Murshidabad district did not go to polls. That was because 2 candidates, they succumbed to COVID-19 before the assembly constituencies could go to polls, and that is why the election in those polls, they have been delayed now indefinitely because of COVID. Now let's understand, out of the 23 districts in Bengal, BJP won in 6 districts, and the districts are of Kuch Bihar, Alipurdwar, Jalpaiguri, Darjeeling, Bankura and Nadia, most of which are in North Bengal. Now, if we take a look at the vote share of the 2 main parties, the TMC and the BJP, phase-wise, TMC has a higher vote share in all the 8 phases that went to polls. So what has happened is that the TMC has been able to maintain their vote share in districts where they had a stronghold, but they've also been able to do well in districts which did really well for the BJP in 2019 Lok Sabha election. For example, the western part of the state, the Jungle Mahal region, those were the places that went to polls in the first and second phases, and they were supposedly BJP strongholds, but even in those phases and in those districts, TMC has done better than anticipated. Now let's talk about the key takeaways from this election results. Number 1, the Muslim vote. Now, when Abbas Siddiqui, who is a popular religious cleric Muslim cleric in Bengal, when he floated his own party, the Indian Secular Front, in January this year, there were speculations that the Muslim vote could get divided, who have primarily voted for the TMC for the last 10 years. Now, of course, Abbas Siddiqui went on to join the left and the Congress, and they formed an alliance called the Sanjukta Morcha, and there were speculations that the Muslim vote would get divided between the TMC and the Sanjukta Morcha. Then came AIMIM, which has been trying to, make inroads into states with large Muslim populations. Asaduddin Owaisi came to Bengal and he announced that AIMIM would contest on 6 seats, which were primarily Muslim concentrated assembly seats. But of course, what happened was that the Muslim vote did not get divided at all. All the districts in Bengal which have large Muslim population and large Muslim concentration, whether it's Malda, Murshidabad, Kolkata, North and South Dinajpur, they have all gone in favor of TMC. And in fact, even Murshidabad and Malda, which have huge Muslim populations, and till now they were bastions of the Congress, even they have voted for the TMC this time. So the Muslim population, which constitutes almost 30% of the voters in the state, they have all voted in favor of Mamata Banerjee. Now let's talk about the women voters in the state. 3.7 crore women constitute 49% of Bengal's electorate, and in this election it is clear that they have continued to stand by Mamata Banerjee, and that one of the reasons for that is Mamata's women-centric schemes that she has launched over her tenure. Kanya Shri or Rupa Shri are women-centric schemes launched by Mamata Banerjee, which help girls get funding for their education and even for their marriage. The Shabuj Sathi gives girls cycles and even education loans. All of these schemes have been very, 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 very popular. Many of these are direct cash transfer schemes that are beneficial to low-income households, which are primarily run by women. The high woman voter turnout in all the phases is an indicator that women majorly voted for Mamata Banerjee this time, because in 2019, in a post-poll survey conducted by Lokniti at the Center for Study of Developing Societies, they found out that the Trinamool Congress was the only party to have more women voters than men. 47% of Bengal's women voted for Trinamool Congress, while 38% voted for the BJP. Now, Mamta's persona is women empowerment personified. She's the only woman chief minister in the country currently, and her whole narrative of Banglar May or Bengal's daughter was also seen as her attempt at empowering women. Now, the sexist jibes by BJP leaders, whether it was Narendra Modi's Didi O Didi jibe, or Dilip Ghosh saying Mamta Banerjee should wear Bermudas, or Babul Supriyo saying that Aurat Paraya Dhan hoti hai in response to TMC's campaign slogan Bangla Nijer Make Chai. All of this and so much more, all of the personal attacks on Mamta Banerjee over the course of the last 2 months by the BJP, it was not bound to go down very well with the women of Bengal, and that seems to be the case in the election results as well. Now let's talk about what went wrong for the BJP. Now, to be fair, BJP has done really well in comparison to the last assembly election in 2016, where they had won just 3 seats. So from 3 to 77 in 5 years, and from 0 in 2011 to 77 in 2021 in 10 years is by no means a small feature. But the thing is that the overconfidence of the BJP saying that they were going to win 200 plus seats in this election, it is their overconfidence is why this election result seems like a big blow to the BJP. Now, the truth of the matter is that there wasn't any one issue or any one narrative that the BJP could drive home against the TMC. Now, whether it was TMC's corruption or TMC's cut money culture, what the BJP ended up doing was that they ended up inducting a lot of TMC leaders who had been accused of corruption. That was a big contradiction, and the people on the ground, they were aware of it. The TMC defectors, it seems, did not make a big difference for the BJP at all. 148 TMC defectors were given tickets by the BJP, out of which only 6 of them won. The big face savers were Shuvendu Adhikari and Mukul Roy, and of course Shuvendu Adhikari beating Mamta Banerjee in Nandigram is by no means a small feat. The kind of polarization and communalism that we witnessed in Bengal during the election was one that we had not seen before. BJP leaders saying that Mamta Bengal ko mini Pakistan bana degi, ya Mamta Begum narrative, or Hindu Khatre mein hai, these kinds of narratives were never going to work in Bengal. Now let me give you a personal anecdote. I had gone for Prime Minister Modi's Brigade Parade ground rally, and I spoke to hundreds of BJP supporters there. And even there, people who were supporting the BJP and supporting Narendra Modi said that they were doing so because they wanted more jobs in the state and they wanted more industries to come in the state, and they blamed Mamta for unemployment and joblessness. But they themselves said that Hindus and Muslims live in Bengal very harmoniously, and that is something that will continue to happen. These were supporters of the BJP saying that. Not announcing a chief ministerial candidate, in my opinion, did hurt BJP massively. They had a lot of local leaders. They could have chosen one of them and portrayed them as the alternative or the big face against Mamta Banerjee, and they could have used their entire huge election machinery to portray this one person as the alternative to Mamta Banerjee. That is something that they did not do. It did not work. This narrative of हम election के बाद decide करेंगे या central leadership decide करेगा, that narrative has worked in some states like in Uttar Pradesh, but then it has backfired massively in states like Delhi, and that is what happened in Bengal as well. Mamta Banerjee was able to use the outsider narrative to her benefit because BJP's star campaigners were all non-Bengali leaders and non-Bengali speaking leaders, whether it was Narendra Modi or Amit Shah or JP Nadda or Smriti Irani or Yogi Adityanath. They were all non-Bengali speaking leaders, and Mamta Banerjee was able to drive home that rhetoric that they are outsiders who don't understand the culture of Bengal and don't understand the people, don't understand the language. So she was able to use the barrage of the BJP star campaigners in Bengal to her benefit. Now let's talk about the decimation of the Congress and the left in the state. Now, since independence, it was either the Congress or the left that had been ruling the state of West Bengal till 2011. Now, in 10 years, the representation of Congress and the left has been reduced to zero in the assembly. That is the big shocker. In 2016, Congress got 44 seats and the left got 32 seats, and together they had 76 seats in the assembly. And that entire vote share has now been transferred to either the BJP and even to the TMC minutely. The Muslim voter of the Congress and the left, they have also abandoned them. Specifically, the Congress's Muslim voters, they have abandoned the party and supported the TMC this time around, which is also something that is interesting because that indicates that allying with a party like ISF might not have been in the best interest of both of these parties. And let me explain why. Although ISF did try to portray themselves as a secular party, they could not shake off their image of being a communal or this minority party, or Abbas Siddiqui could not really shake off his image as a communal or a radical sort of a leader, unfortunately. And again, I think that is interesting because it shows that even the Muslims in the state did have a problem with associating themselves with a party like ISF, which has an image of being a communal or a minority party. If you remember, the Congress themselves was split over this alliance with the ISF, and it seems like the G23 leaders were proved to be right. I also think another big problem is that the Congress and the left parties in the state do not want to change or adapt to the times. They say that they have less funding and they don't have enough resources, and although that might be the case, that cannot be the excuse. And the other campaigns of the left and the Congress in other states are stark examples. Whether you take the LDF's campaign in Kerala or even Congress's campaign in Assam, it might not have yielded the desired results, but the campaign of the Congress in Assam was far better than Congress's campaign in Bengal. They did not have any local faces. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary was barely in the state. He was in Lok Sabha till March, till the end of budget session. So he came to Bengal just a few weeks before the election was supposed to start. When the BJP won 18 seats in the 2019 Lok Sabha, the TMC realized that they had a problem and they decided to do something about it. They brought in Prashant Kishen, they made the necessary changes that had to be made. They changed their entire game plan 2 years before the 2021 election. And of course, you can see the result in front of you. In 2019 Lok Sabha election, the Congress and the left got 0 seats. Yet what did they decide to do? Nothing at all. How are they going to come back from this, having 0 representation in Lok Sabha from Bengal, and now even in the assembly they're going to have 0 representation? How are they going to come back from this? That is anybody's guess at this point. Now let's talk about the Prashant Kishen factor. I had made a video about Prashant Kishen's role in the TMC camp. I have given details about how he changed the TMC's organizational structure and how he was involved in TMC's governance, their policy, and even their outreach programs. Now, all of this has resulted in the victory of Mamata Banerjee. Now, in March, I met Prashant Kishen, and although I could not convince him to give us an interview here on Epicenter, I did have a conversation with him, and in that he did mention that all the government outreach programs after June 2019, whether it was Dware Sarkar or Didi Ke Bolo or Swasthya Sathi, they all had been formulated with the help of Prashant Kishen's team at IPAC. The IPAC was also involved in candidate selections based on the ground surveys that they had done on the candidates, and those candidates who did not fare well in popularity and in winnability, they were not given seats. IPAC became Mamata's eyes and ears on the ground. They changed the organizational structure from the booth level to the district level to the state level, and they were able to, like I said, become the ears and eyes of Mamata Banerjee on the ground. And it was because of this extensive surveys, ground surveys, that Prashant Kishen was so confident that the TMC will not lose this election. In fact, BJP will not be able to get more than 100 seats. And he put his career on the line by making this statement on Twitter in December 2020, and he was vindicated. BJP, of course, could not cross the 100 mark. They were quite far away from that 100 mark. And a lot of credit for TMC's win in Bengal has to be given to Prashant Kishen. Now let's talk about the pandemic's impact on the election results. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, it does not seem that the pandemic had any sort of an impact on the results of this election. And let me explain why. It was the fifth phase of polling onwards that Bengal started seeing a massive spike in COVID cases. This was around mid-April. But the voter turnout percentage does not indicate that people did not come out to vote for the fear of COVID-19. The voter percentage did fall slightly, very, very slightly in the 7th and 8th phase of polling, but that does not seem to have had an impact on the results. The BJP says that their urban voters did not come out to vote in the 7th or the 6th, 7th and 8th phases because of a fear of COVID. But the reality is that in the last three phases, the districts that were included in these phases were TMC strongholds, or they were districts with large Muslim populations, which were anyway not BJP vote banks. Now let's talk about the opposition in the country and how these results have impacted the survival of the opposition. Now, the first video that I had made on Epicenter, that was 10 things to know about the Bengal election, I had talked about how TMC doing well in these elections did have a major role to play in the survival of the opposition in this country. Now that holds true more than ever now, because out of the 4 states and 1 union territory that went to polls this time around, there were 3 major opposition faces that have emerged victorious: MK Stalin, Pinarayi Vijayan and Mamta Banerjee. But the defining moment of the election this year was Mamta Banerjee in a wheelchair taking on the might who now it seems are all rallying behind her. And you could see that in the kind of congratulatory messages that she received on social media after the results came out. Whether it was Rahul Gandhi congratulating her despite the dismal performance of the Congress in Bengal, he congratulated her for defeating the BJP in the state. It was there was Uddhav Thackeray, there was Sharad Pawar, there was Umar Abdullah, Mehbooba Mufti, Arvind Kejriwal, Jagan Mohan Reddy. All of these opposition leaders came out in support of Mamta Banerjee and sent her congratulatory messages this time around. And it seems that her popularity has just grown overnight. Her national significance has also grown overnight with these results. She is the 3rd time Chief Minister or consecutive Chief Minister of Bengal, given the sheer volume of her 3rd consecutive win. And it seems like this win has kind of answered the question in some way or the other, or maybe it's too early to presume that, but this is the kind of narrative that is already starting to build around Mamta Banerjee. There might be an answer to Modi versus who. If you like this video, don't forget to virtually like this video as well. Share the video and also subscribe to this channel, and also hit the bell icon so you never miss an update on this channel. We're a small independent news venture and we need your support, we need your subscription, we need your interaction, and we need engagement to be able to sustain this channel. So thank you so much for watching.